What is going on, Fit Fam? Welcome on back to my channel. My name is Megan Janice, the founder of Nomadic Fitness, and I teach you ladies how to eat way more food without any restrictions and work out smarter instead of harder so you can build that banging, sexy hourglass body, very feminine, and feel amazing in it year-round for the rest of your life. So if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. And if you're coming on back, thanks so much for joining for another video. All right, fam, in today's video, I am going to be kind of going off about my biggest frustration in the fitness industry. And that is the constant chatter around needing to be in a calorie deficit to see fat loss, but not actually taking into consideration first if you are at a good place to be in a calorie deficit. If your calories are currently good enough, high enough that you can go into a calorie deficit and have it actually work and have sustainable fat loss results from it. So you literally constantly hear in this industry, if you want to lose fat, you need to be in a calorie deficit. Yes, this is true, technically speaking, that you cannot make your body use up your body fat, which technically is just backup emergency fuel, or at least that's kind of how our bodies think of it and how we store fat in the first place. So you have to be creating a deficit. You need to be eating a little bit less than the amount you're burning so that your body is going to say, okay, we got to pull from these fat stores to make up for that deficit in energy that is happening. So yes, it is technically true that you need to be in a calorie deficit in order to lose fat. But again, why this is so frustrating to me is because a lot of people are not in a good position to be going into a calorie deficit, mainly because they already are not eating that much food. So a lot of women are only eating like 1,300, 1,400, 1,500, maybe 1,600 calories a day. This is not everyone. There are a lot of people who are eating over 2,000 calories a day, which is really where you should be at. But definitely a lot of women just do not take the time to feed themselves properly. Whether this is just because they're busy and they just kind of don't think about it, and so they go through their whole day without eating that much, which is very, very normal. Probably a lot of you watching this can relate to that. Or the second thing is just that they are afraid of eating kind of in general because they've heard this their entire lives, that food is the enemy, and if I eat, I will get fat, I will gain weight, so therefore I should just try to eat as little as possible. So whether you are intentionally avoiding food because you're trying to diet and you're afraid of it, or you just don't eat because it's not your habit and you're busy and you don't take the time to do it, either way, I'd say a huge percentage, probably definitely the majority of women and people in general, fall into the category of currently not eating enough. And I do just want to specify that you can be overweight and still not be eating enough. In fact, the vast majority of people who are overweight are not eating enough. Because sometimes when I say this, I've heard this from my audience that they think, oh, you're only talking about really skinny or like skinny fat women. But no, it can also be women who have a decent amount of body fat to lose who are still not eating enough. So here's the thing, if these women who are already, eating 1,200 to let's say 1,600 calories a day, being on that low side of a calorie intake, and then they hear, all right, so I need to be in a calorie deficit. Well, if you're already eating 1,300 calories, how are you gonna go into a calorie deficit? What, you're gonna only eat 1,000 calories a day? You're gonna only eat 900 calories a day? So this is why that constant messaging of you need a calorie deficit to lose fat really frustrates me, because it is missing the forest for the trees. Yes, technically speaking, you do need one, but you have to first see where are you at currently with your intake, and does it make sense for you to actually go into a calorie deficit from your current intake? So what is the solution to this then? How can you be losing fat but not having to go on insanely low calories? Because if you are going to try to lose fat on super, super low calories, a couple things can happen. Number one, it might not even really work just because your body is going to be so stressed that it's not responsive. Because obviously when your body thinks it's starving like that, which, eating close to 1,000 calories a day pretty much is starvation, your body is going to be really, really trying to preserve everything that it's got and not lose weight, because again, it thinks like, okay, there's a famine, there's no food, so don't try to lose fat, hold onto it for dear life, slow down the metabolism, slow down the bodily function so we're not burning calories. So that's the first thing, is that eating super low calorie may not even work anyways. But the second thing is, okay, yes, let's say that you do go into this crazy calorie deficit, and yes, you do see some weight/fat loss from that. The chances of you actually sustainably maintaining those results are so low, because obviously, okay, you lose a little bit of weight by eating 1,000 calories a day, but how long are you gonna actually be able to only eat 1,000 2,000 calories a day. And obviously this is why yo-yo dieting is so common, because women will do this and then they'll just get to a point where they're like, oh my God, this isn't even really working. I'm so miserable, F it. And then they'll binge and then they'll gain weight back. And then it just goes into this vicious cycle. So the question is, how do we break free of this for good? And the answer is you need to stop dieting and you need to start eating more food, which is called doing a reverse diet. So literally meaning the inverse of what a diet is. So when you're dieting, the idea is that you keep cutting your calories lower and lower and lower. So a reverse diet is where you actually keep consistently getting your calories higher and higher and higher, gradually increasing your calories over time. And this is the secret to losing more fat and being able to keep it off for good. And not only being able to lose fat, because it also is the key to gaining muscle. And that is the thing that you actually really want. It's definitely not just about weighing less. It's not about losing fat and then having nothing underneath. It's really the muscle that is going to make you look and feel the way that you want to, because the muscle is what makes your skin smooth, firm, and tight, and makes everything toned and defined, which is what women want. They don't want to just be small and skinny fat. They want to be sexy, sculpted, defined, and feel really good while they're doing it. So the way that you're going to get that outcome is increasing your calories, aka doing this reverse diet. Okay, so to understand the power of a reverse diet and to understand why constantly dieting is so ineffective, we first need to understand how our bodies actually burn calories on a daily basis. So I've talked about this in many videos, but I'll quickly again go over it here. The amount of calories you burn every single day is called your TDEE, total daily energy expenditure. So the grand total amount of calories that you are burning on a daily basis. And this is made up of 4 different sources. The very first one, and by far the biggest, is your BMR, basal metabolic rate, which is the fancy way of saying your metabolism. So that is responsible for 70% of all of the calories that you burn every single day. So obviously that is a lot. And the thing about your metabolism is this is what is burning calories for you 24/7 on autopilot, literally without anything else taken into consideration. So even if you laid in bed, you didn't move, you were literally just laying there being alive with your heart pumping, your lungs breathing oxygen, you would still burn that 70% of calories, because it is just the baseline of what it costs to keep your body alive. Okay, and then the next thing after that is your NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is 15%. So obviously that's a lot less than the 70%, but it's still the next biggest contributing factor. So that is all activity that you do throughout your day that's not an actual workout. It's not actually intentionally going for a run or going to lift weights or whatever it may be. It would just be things like your steps, which is the biggest contributing factor, how much you walk and move throughout the day, standing up, picking things up off the ground, carrying things, whatever it may be. That's all your NEAT, and that does actually add up throughout the day. Then the next category is your TEF, or the thermic effective food, which is a fancy way of saying your digestion, which is 10% of all the calories you burn. Because when you eat food, your body has to break down that food and digest it, which costs your body calories. It takes energy for your body to do that. And you're gonna see in a second that when you eat more food, you actually have to digest more, which helps you burn more calories. And this is why eating more is so powerful, but we'll get to that in a second. And then the last contributing factor of your TDEE is your EAT. So your exercise activity thermogenesis, meaning the calories that you burn doing an actual intentional workout. And as you can see, this is the least contributing factor to your daily calorie burn. It is only 5% of all of the calories burnt. Collectively, these 4 sources contribute to your TDEE, all of the calories you burn every single day. So here is the thing. When you are consistently eating less and less food, all 4 sources of your TDEE are going to adapt, and they are also going to start burning less and less calories. So since there is less food coming into your body, your metabolism is going to adapt, because it is going to try to always keep you alive. And so if you're eating less food, it thinks, okay, we need to start burning less calories now. So your metabolism slows down. Also, things like your bodily functions like digestion slow down. So that also makes your TEF go down. You're eating less food. Your body doesn't have as much energy to process the food you are eating. So you're burning less calories from that. And then of course, your movement is also burning less calories because you don't have as much energy for as much movement. So even with things like your NEAT, you're going to subconsciously move less when you have less fuel, right? Even the way I'm moving my hands like this and being fidgety, when you're very tired because you're barely eating, you're not going to be doing that. You're just going to be kind of like, because you don't have the energy to do it. So you're gonna be burning less calories from your NEAT. And then obviously your actual workout itself, if you are very tired, you barely have any energy in your body from food, then of course you're not gonna be burning as many calories from the workout itself. All four of those sources is now decreasing. So now you are just burning less calories all of the time. And that is why, even though you're eating these low calories, you're not burning very many calories. So you're actually not gonna be able to lose that much body fat or see much weight loss. And then of course, it's just not sustainable, because how long are you gonna really be able to maintain these low calories before you're gonna come out of them? And then the other very important factor of all of this, beyond just the TDEE, is to remember that yes, the main thing that we actually want is to have muscle on our body. And if you are barely eating, you cannot gain muscle. Muscle has to be created from an excess amount of calories. It needs to be a surplus of calories above what your energy requirements are. So if you're barely eating, you are not going to be building any muscle, which means you're not going to have the sexy tone definition that you want. And also, the more muscle you have, the faster your metabolism becomes, because it costs your body more calories to have muscle than it does to have body fat. So all of this is just contributing to the fact that eating super low calorie, constantly trying to be at these low calories in a calorie deficit, is not going to work. So now the opposite happens when you reverse diet, when you gradually focus on increasing your calories bit by bit, conditioning your body to burn through more and more fuel. Because think about it, it makes sense that if our bodies adapt and start burning less and less calories because we are consistently eating less and less, it's also going to work the opposite way. If we are consistently eating more and more and more, our body is going to start to adapt, start pick up, and then it's going to be burning more calories all the time. So all four sources of your TDEE will increase when you are also consistently eating more food. So your metabolism is going to realize, okay, great, there's all of this food, it is abundant, we can spend these calories freely on our bodily functions, and we can start to burn more calories 24/7 all of the time. So metabolism goes up, and obviously when you're eating more food, you're able to build more muscle, which is going to make you look sexy and tone the way that you actually want to. Obviously also make you feel strong and energized. But then of course, that is furthermore speeding up your metabolism, because more muscle is going to create more calorie burn 24/7, even if you're doing nothing. And then of course you have more energy, so things like fidgeting, moving, walking around, you're going to be burning more in your NEAT as well. And then more food means that your body is digesting more food. It also has more energy to even do the digestion process in the first place, so you're burning more calories from the thermic effect of food. And then lastly, of course, the more energy you have, more calories coming into your body, the better you can do in your workouts. And then of course you're going to be burning more calories in the workouts itself. So that is the power of reverse dieting, and that is how you actually end up losing body fat and being able to keep it off, because you actually are having a sustainable intake of calories. So this is literally what I do with my clients all the time. They come to me eating whatever it is, like 1100, maybe up to 1600 calories. And again, not every single person falls into this boat, but definitely I'd say the majority of the clients who come to me are eating very low calorie like that, even if they're overweight right now. So then what we do is obviously we set the right macros from their current intake, because that is crucial. You got to make sure that you're getting enough protein, definitely giving your body a lot of carbs, and then keeping the fats kind of moderate, because when fat intake is way too high, you're just going to be putting on too much body fat because it converts too easily over. And then obviously the protein is important for muscle building, and the carbs is also really important for muscle building, because it's the fuel for your performance in the gym to be able to build the muscle in the first place. And also carbs convert into glycogen, which gets stored inside of your muscles as energy and kind of makes them all full and pumped. So definitely setting the right macros off the bat is very crucial. And then what we do is we slowly but surely start to increase their intake, evaluating it every single week, because we have to see how your body is responding. Everybody is going to have unique biofeedback. Everybody's going to be getting a different amount of hunger cues. Everybody's going to be seeing different things happening with their photos, what's happening on the scale. So there's no kind of just like one standard of exactly how you should reverse diet. The kind of general rule of thumb is that every 1 to 2 weeks, you'd be increasing 50 to 100 calories, mainly from your carbs, assuming the other macros are where they should be. But again, this is going to vary depending on what you see happening with the scale, with your photos, with your biofeedback. And I've made an entire video that goes all over how to set your macros and then how to reverse diet, the exact details of how to do that here. So make sure to go check that out if you want to know what your numbers should be to go through this process. So then here's the thing, as I'm taking my clients through this reverse diet, as they start eating more and more calories, the body fat starts coming off, even when they were not able to lose the body fat eating very low calories. And the reason they weren't able to is because their TDEE was also so low, versus now that they're eating more food, their TDEE has increased, so now the body fat is just melting off. So I've had the success with so many clients that by increasing their calories, 500 up to even as much as 1,000 calories or even more, that is when they really start to see the fat come off and they start to see all that sexy lean tone definition come on. Now, it's important to note that not everybody is going to see a bunch of fat loss happen in the reverse diet itself. It is going to depend on your body. Some people, when they start to eat more, their TDEE is going to pick up so much that even though they are eating more calories now, if they are seeing the scale go down as they're eating more calories, that means they actually technically are in a calorie deficit. So this is the whole insane part of it, is that you can create a calorie deficit for yourself by eating more food and an even more effective calorie deficit, because your intake is so high than it would be if you were trying to have a calorie deficit at such a low intake. So the thing is, since they're eating more food and their TDEE has increased, but then they're still seeing weight drop and they're seeing fat come off, that means that their TDEE is still a little bit higher than the amount of food that they are consuming, even though the amount of food that they're consuming is more than it was before. So that won't happen to necessarily everybody. Some people are not going to see a really big difference happen in the reverse diet, and some people are going to see the scale go up in a reverse diet a couple of pounds, and that is okay. It does not mean that you are gaining fat in the reverse diet, because you aren't, as long as you are following the correct steps. But what it does mean is you are eating more food now than you were before. So you have more gut weight, like literally more food just in your stomach, so that is making the scale go up. You're holding on to more water weight, especially when you eat carbs, you also hold water. And then with all the carbs you're eating, you're storing more glycogen, the energy we get from carbs inside of your muscles. And then also hopefully you are putting on a little bit of muscle, assuming you're also lifting weights while you're doing all of this, which obviously you should be, because that's what you need to do to build muscle. But the thing is, even if the scale goes up a little bit in your reverse diet, you're probably still gonna see some good changes happening in your body, meaning you're gonna see some good body recomposition. So even though the weight may be staying the same or maybe going up even a little bit as you're eating more and more food through this reverse diet process, you're still going to be decreasing body fat and putting muscle on. So you're still gonna be looking a lot better than you did when you started, because you now have the right macros, you're eating more food, so your metabolism is more efficient, and of course you're lifting weights, so you're building muscle. But even if this is the case for you, even if you don't necessarily lose a ton of fat in the reverse diet itself, what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for a successful fat loss phase. You're setting yourself up to go into a calorie deficit that is actually going to be effective. So instead of trying to do a calorie deficit at 1,100 calories, you're gonna be able to reverse diet all the way up to at least 2,000 calories a day, if not more than that, because that is the bare minimum anybody should be going into a calorie deficit at. So now if you reverse diet all the way up to 2,000 calories a day, you can start going into a fat loss phase at only 1,800 calories, which is way better, way more sustainable. It's actually going to work so much better because your TDEE is going to be so much higher in your calorie deficit than it would be if you're trying to do it at 1,100 calories. So that is how it works, fam. That is the big secret that so few people in this industry talk about. It's just constantly hearing you need to be in a calorie deficit to lose fat, but without any consideration of if you are at an appropriate place to go into a calorie deficit, which the vast majority of people are not, because their intake is too low already. They need to focus on getting their intake up so they can have a faster TDEE, so that the fat loss is actually going to be more effective and it's going to be sustainable, because it's a real amount of food that they can continue to eat and therefore continue to get good results, feel really energized and healthy at, have good happy hormones so that they're going to be responsive, and of course be putting on muscle underneath, which is the thing that you actually want to get that toned, sexy definition and feel really strong while doing so. If you find all this a bit overwhelming and you just want to be guided through the entire process of how to do this specifically for your body, that is what I do as a one-to-one coach, and I have had with all kinds of women, all different types of backgrounds. It does not matter what their starting point is. This applies to everyone and it will work for you whether or not you have a lot of weight to lose or not. It is the same process. So if you are interested, in the month of September, I'm actually having a promotion with my one-to-one coaching, which is when you join and you pay in full upfront for the 4 months of coaching. You're also going to receive 2 amazing free gifts. You're going to get a free organic premium protein powder, so you can use that in the kitchen to help help you with getting your protein target in. And then I'm also going to be giving you a free pair of Versa grips, which is a premium weightlifting strap. It is the best one, which is the #1 tool I recommend that you have in the gym to help you with your lifts so that you can get stronger, put on more muscle, and speed up the metabolism. So if you're interested, click on the link below to apply for one-to-one coaching, and we can get you set up with these amazing free bonuses. All right, fam, thank you so much for checking out this video. So now I want you to next go watch this one, which is the one I mentioned earlier, where I walk through exactly step by step how to actually do a reverse diet and then how to move into a fat loss phase from there. So how to set your macros, how to adjust your calories week to week, and how to know when you should adjust your calories and by how much by paying attention to your very important biofeedback. Thanks so much for checking out this video, and I will see you in that one.